What is up, everybody? It is Kobaz back again, and this time with something a little bit different from my usual videos. This one is just going to be a gameplay video with commentary. It's from a Mythic Plus I did just a few days ago. It is 25 Thrown at the Tides in Season 3 of Dragonflight. And I don't want to get too nitpicky with watching a VOD. I can be really critical of myself. So I will point out mistakes that I make, but more just as a hopeful learning experience for you guys and not being too hard on myself. So in this first poll here, I could definitely do a lot better at keeping kill command on cooldown. There are a couple of barb shots that I use that I shouldn't have, because really kill command is going to be the majority of our damage, assuming we have all of our stacks and beast cleave up. So like right here, could do a lot better keeping that down off of 2. The turtle was not a fat finger. I saw a cast coming in and I did not want to get hit. I wasn't sure if it would one-shot me on a 25 fortified, and ideally I would be saving my kick for a heal that's going off. Since, you know, I can feign, I can turtle, I can use a defensive if it's just a water bolt on me, something similar. Like on that pull, it really shows how strong BM is and why we deserved a bit of a nerf. Probably deserved a bigger nerf than we got. We ended up only getting something like a 5% AoE nerf this last week, and not playing that pull even close to perfectly. I think I peaked at like 1.7 million DPS. Kind of disgusting, honestly. It's an overtuned spec, but we do like that. we really do like that. Makes it a lot more fun. If you are doing a 25 throne or just a difficult throne, make sure that you're keeping an eye on the crushing tides casts or crushing depth casts from those sentinels. That is going to be the only thing in these packs that is likely to kill you unless you get double water bolted. On this one, ideally, your whole group is going to be spread around this mob. The green circle is always going to go on whoever is furthest out, but the barrage, the acid barrage that gets shot out there, it always targets a player. So you guys want to be spread out around so that ideally only one of you is getting hit by the barrage. Right here, I'm trying to play far because I want the circles to go on me. I'm super mobile as a BM hunter, but my group is not making that so easy. Like right there, I just get rescued in, so I can't get the bait. And now the room is very filled with green, and it's really hard for us to spread out correctly. So like right here, I'm trying to get to the side where I don't see other players. But before you complete the first 2 bosses in this place, those sides have invisible walls that'll push you out, which you were probably just seeing there. So I'm just struggling to find a safe spot here. I can see the enhancement shamans right there, and we're trying. Ideally, this thing is tanked right in the middle of the room, and then it's a lot easier to spread out. Everyone can be pretty close, except for the one person trying to bait, and then you just kind of rotate around the room with the bait pool being dropped, you know, clockwise, counterclockwise, and everybody just moves to make room for whoever is baiting. But we're mostly pugging this. Both the evoker and the healer are pugs, so there's only so much you can really communicate on a pull like that. But if you are looking to min-max it and do it cleanly, that's the way you want to do it, not the way that you just saw us do it, that's for sure. And I don't know about you guys, but I am really enjoying BM after the changes. Adding a 2-minute cooldown that does a lot of damage, that feels really rewarding, both single target and AoE, makes such a difference on the way this spec plays, and I absolutely love it. So right here, you want to be targeting one caster, and then you want to have a focus target on the other caster. And that way, if you have, you know, focus intim, focus kick, all those kind of macros, you can be watching two dangerous mobs at once to make sure that the dungeon goes at least a little bit more smoothly. So right here, I'm focusing down one caster just because, again, we don't have the full group in voice. We're not going to be able to communicate kicks all that well, and I just want fewer potential abilities going off. So I'm just killing casters first. If you're just going for time, you want to be targeting the higher HP mobs first. So it'd be, you know, like the sentinels if they're there, stuff like that. Here we split the sentinels up because we don't have hero going like we did on the first pack. They can really blast the tank with those shell breakers, and the crushing depths that puts a massive heal absorb can be really hard to deal with when you have other casts going off. So if we did that last pull and this one together, it would be super dangerous. If you're really trying to min-max time, you would do it anyway. But if you're really, really trying to min-max time, you're going to have everybody in voice, and it's going to be an organized group, so it'll be more doable. Here, I'm focusing Skull. It looks like Skull is not being focused, so I swap, because we only want one of these depths, crushing depths going off at a time. So I swap to try and kill this one, and don't quite kill it in time. I feign to try and buy us a little more time, but the cast still goes off, hits the shaman. Not ideal. He almost dies his big defensive procs when he gets low HP, but no deaths, so it works out. Nope, okay, I spoke too soon. Not no deaths, I forgot about that one. The AoE face tanked a little bit of spiteful damage. Even though they don't scale past 20, if you just face tank them, the spiteful still can't kill you, so do watch out. But that is a nice quality of life change that was made. It used to be that the spitefuls just kept scaling, so if you were doing a 25, they would auto you once and you would die pretty much. But now anything above a 20, the spitefuls are doing the same damage as a 20, so a lot more forgiving, and the affix doesn't feel as awful to play with. When I'm thinking about my cooldown usage on these packs, pretty much if I have a Bestial Wrath, I'm going to use it unless the pack is dying in the next 5 seconds. Bestial Wrath comes up so frequently with the resets you get from Barb Shot that you just want as much uptime on that as you can realistically get. My 2-minute cooldowns, if I can get the full 20 seconds out of the Call of the Wild, even if it's a single target mob, I'm probably going to be using that. Again, like, it might be a little less overall damage, but it's all about speeding up the dungeon in Mythic Plus. So, you know, making that single target mob not drag on forever, even if you do a little less damage on the big pad on the next pack, totally fine. Who cares about overall, really? Unless you're making a YouTube title, I guess. A little bit hypocritical there. Big things when you are using Call of the Wild, if you can, you really want to make sure that you have a Bestial Wrath to overlap with that. Bestial Wrath gives you just 25% more damage. Add that with all of the extra damage you're getting from not having to multi-shot, and all the extra pets and extra cleaves you're getting. Those two abilities going together, as well as Death Chakrams, if you can line that up, you really want to add all of your damage together. Stacking cooldowns is better in pretty much every scenario. They're going to synergize with each other. My tank is thinking about doing the Ravager with the dogs here, and we're saying, please no, we don't want to die. So, thankfully he listens. So like right here, if I didn't have my cooldowns just used on the previous pack, I would still use it here. Yeah, it's a single target mob, but you want to use your cooldowns on single target mobs. You want to just be doing as much damage for every moment in the dungeon as possible without necessarily looking to min-max your overall. It's going to make the dungeon go faster, and that's really what we're after. Like, it's team content. You want to be a team player. Again, right here, I'm trying to bait, be the furthest one out. I'm trying to move the pools around. We're doing a much better job on this one. You can see the druid on the far side there. So the barrages, they might go towards him. They might go towards me. You can see the evoker just kind of stacking in the pets. Ideally, the evoker is not right there. He should be like off to the left side from my perspective right now. Because right now, one bad barrage would hit 3 of them, and you can see right there we lucked out. The barrage went towards the shaman, but since the druid wasn't close in, he baited a pool, which forced him and the evoker to both stack up, and then the only way for them to move was back towards me. Not ideal, but again, it's not an organized pug, so it doesn't really matter. Big pull here. Cooldowns are coming up, obviously going to use them. If you guys have the Witherbark branch, you can see the way that I like to do it is I get 2 of the orbs immediately, and this one isn't a great example, but I get 2 of the orbs immediately, and then I wait until there's about 10 seconds left on my Call of the Wild buff to get the last orb. The reason for that is that each orb gives you 1,000 some odd mastery depending on the item level, and then every additional orb gives you 1,000 more mastery, but the big thing is that it also refreshes the duration of the buff, and so I'm not totally sure what's best. If you should, you know, get 1 orb, wait until the last second, get another one for a full refresh, and that way you have 20 or 30 overall seconds of buff up time. Or the way I do it is I get 20 seconds of overall buff up time, but instead of starting at 1,000, for 10 seconds, 2,000 for another 10, and then 3,000 for the final 10. I like to just start out with the 2,000 mastery and then get it up to the 3,000 mastery. And the reason I do that is just so that the full duration of it overlaps with my Call of the Wild. In Mythic Plus, at least, if I really, really wanted to min-max it, I could be using the trinket, getting the first one. Like if I know I'm going to be using the ability in, you know, 10 seconds, and it's not going straight into a pack. You know, you're already in a pack, your cooldowns are coming up, you can pre-use the trinket, get the first 10 seconds so that you're not wasting, essentially, the first stack. And then use your Call of the Wild, get your second orb, and then your third orb. But that is just way too complicated, and I'm a BM hunter, so I like it nice and simple. So I just use the trinket in a macro with my Call of the Wild, pick up 2 orbs, wait 10 seconds, pick up the third orb before the buff falls off, and we call it good. And it seems to work pretty well. Might not be at a perfect min-max, but that's alright. A really nice thing to keep in mind when you're doing these dungeons with Spiteful is, you can see it right here, you can use Spiteful to keep your Thrill of the Hunt and your Frenzy going. So like right there it was going to fall off, and I would be starting this boss with nothing. But I turn back, I get that barb shot on the Spiteful, and now we go in full cooldowns into this boss with full stacks already. It's just little stuff like that you can do to min-max. Right now, I'm using the talents that we use, or would have been using, before the last set of nerfs that affected our tier set. So you can see I'm using Dire Pack. It's in the bottom right, directly above my target frame. That's tracking how many Dire Beasts I've spawned before I get another Dire Pack spawn. So another thing that you can do to min-max your damage when it comes to using Spitefuls and not just padding on them is you can be kill commanding if you know that your kill command is going to come back off cooldown, and you do that to get up to, let's say, like 3 or 4 stacks if you're only at like 1 or 2 stacks, so that you go into the next pack primed to get a proc for your Spiteful, or using Spiteful to prime a proc for your Dire Pack so that you can just spam the shit out of kill command right as you open. Whenever you do this, the way that our group does it is I just kick the furthest ad. Everybody groups up because the little guys like to jump. So we all group up in one point. In this case, it's going to be on star. And then I just kick the furthest caster so that she starts coming in. Once she's a little further in, my enhanced shaman will get the second kick. And then everything's grouped up. It makes the intermission a lot smoother. Just make sure that you're watching the frontal from the Triton guy. It's kind of like the survival cone, but I feign this. It goes on my melee. He hates me. Honestly, there's not really much to say on this fight outside of the intermission. It's just dodge, and there's unavoidable damage. He just picks a target and goes from there. Right here, could have played better. Could have gotten the Beast Cleave up a little sooner. I did send one kill command that should have been an AoE kill command, just single target. Not ideal. Right here, I'm debating whether I should be using my Call of the Wild, my 2 minutes, just to clean up these ads, or if I just have a nice, clean, full 20 seconds on the boss, since the intermission ends, and then she's still not damageable for just like a couple of seconds. So I decided to hold it, just do more boss damage. It's a little less overall damage, but who cares? So right here, again, you want to get your Bestial Wrath up. I do. I'm waiting until there's 10 seconds left on that Call of the Wild buff, get that third orb, so that the time with all your pets summoned is going to be your biggest damage. And then nice clean finish to the boss. Again, outside of intermission, there's not much to say about this boss. It's just dodge the geysers on the floor, get hit occasionally, keep doing damage. Like, really, really not much to it. Another thing that I was thinking about with that last Call of the Wild was, you know, this boss is going to die pretty soon anyway. The next boss, I know we're going to have Hero. Do I want to hold my Call of the Wild for like a full minute? Would have been like a minute and a half. Just to line it up with Hero, and I decided no, not worth it. We'll still have at least most of our cooldowns going with Hero here, but I think it was worthwhile. And another thing is, on this boss, when the little blobs are spawned, you want to do damage to them to keep them knocked back away from the boss. and if I hold or held my Call of the Wild, I get the free Beast Cleave without having to waste boss damage on globals doing a multi-shot. And so I believe what I'm going to do here is use Call of the Wild right before the oozes are activated for the second time, just so that I can get free knockback and keep them well dealt with. Because when we do this dungeon, at least, we leave one group unpulled in the corner. You could see it there. So we don't have that much of the boss room to work with before we're in danger of accidentally pulling those mobs in the corner. So it's really, really important to not have to run circles to avoid your oozes by doing the mechanic correctly and just knocking them back, keeping them roughly where you spawn them in the first place. So right here I can see Awaken Ooze is coming up. So I pre-pop. And then I still have Cleave while the oozes are out here. And my pets automatically behind the boss are just going to be Beast Cleaving, pushing those back without me losing any single target damage. And you can see the free Beast Cleave falls off right as those despawn, so that was really well timed. And by the look of it, if I had held on the previous boss, I maybe would have gotten the tail end of a second use of my Call of the Wild on this boss. But this way I still have it coming up for the pack after this, so can't say for certain which one would have been better if I should have held on the previous boss and used at the start and finish of this one, or just one use in the middle of this one, but it would have been a very, very minor difference either way. So you don't have to think too hard about that kind of stuff. But I enjoy min-maxing, and so these are the things, at least when I do VOD review, that I'm thinking about for myself. When you're doing Throne of the Tides, be very careful here. The hitboxes, you can see iTurtle. The hitboxes on those things, the lightning strikes, are absolutely insanely wide. I think the only safe place is directly in the center. There are lanterns between each of the big eel heads. It's like directly in the center of the lanterns there is the safe spot. And so I just sent Turtle there because I didn't want to die for no reason, and I'm pretty confident I'm not going to need Turtle coming up here. If you do this correctly, there's no reason for you to need Turtle on these coming packs. The only time that it can get sketchy is this Watcher has an ability. You can see it tracks it there. It's the pole. When that pole times up with the lines that go on the ground from the seer, it can pull you straight into the line and just about one-shot you. It also silences you, so doesn't allow for a lot of counterplay for many classes. Like, you know, you get pulled in, it hits you, you're at 5% health, and then you're silenced, so you can't heal. So that's really the only time here that's potentially dangerous. Another thing to look out for is those lines that I was talking about that go down. When there's a Z-axis, like the stairs, sometimes the ground effect, you can see right here, gets really faint. And like that hits me because it was elevated and there's some weird black magic voodoo shit going on. But I was not expecting that, and maybe should have held Turtle just in case, but I think it works out here. Thing to watch out for in this pack as well is the Seers, the Mind Flay. If it's targeting you, you want to use Feign. That'll cancel the cast. It lets you save the interrupt, so you can kick another Mind Flay that's on someone that's not you. Feign is actually an incredibly underutilized ability, I think, for a lot of people pushing Mythic Plus. Not at the very high end, but you know, people just getting into it. They're trying to push 20s, get some achievements. If you're watching things that are casting on you, you can Feign before most of the abilities even go off. It won't lock the caster out, so it'll just recast. But at least if you know you don't have defensives, you can use Feign as a pseudo kick. And then a lot of channels, like the Mind Flay, or if you're doing Waycrest Manor, for example, the etch that some of the witches do, you can just Feign that. You wait until the actual channel starts on you, then you can Feign. Very, very valuable. Right here, like, I'm a little sketched out because there are lines. Yep, right there. You can see exactly what I was talking about. The line goes down, the pole pulls you directly to the center of the mob, and there was next to no counterplay for that druid. If he had timers like I have right here showing the poles, he could have pre-bark skinned or iron barked himself, or even just gone bear form. But I think that's a pretty high expectation to have when you're just like pucking a 25. Like, you're not pushing crazy high for the people to be looking for stuff like that. So we just have to be careful knowing that the healer is gone. Be really on top of kicks. Make sure that nobody is getting whittled low or accidentally getting hit by the lines. But we do pretty well here. Clean it up. We think about pulling this last guy in with the oozes, but we're looking and we're totally fine on time. So we're like, you know what? No, let's like nothing will likely go wrong if we were to do it, but let's just waste 10 seconds and not potentially to die to something unforeseen. And if you're not running with a lot of AoE stuns or knockups or a Vengeance Demon Hunter, this pack is actually a little bit dangerous on Fortified. Those psionic pulses that they do a lot of damage. Like you can see my health dropping, especially at the start of this pack. If you have a Vengeance Demon Hunter though, this is an absolute joke. The amount of CC that, honestly, most packs with a Vengeance Demon Hunter become a bit of a joke. The amount of CC that they have with their the changes in the 4-set that they get from, I think it's the 4-set, might be the 2-set, I don't know. I don't play DH. But going into this patch, they got a lot of love and they have crazy amounts of CC. This boss, pretty straightforward. The only two things that you really have to look out for, at least in the current phase that we're on right now, before you get them to like 25%. The totem, you want to kill that. It makes your tank take a lot of damage. If your tank is an absolute Chad, like sometimes you can main target the boss and just cleave the totem, but it's going to be safer 95 times out of 100 to just kill the totem and then go back to hitting the boss. And then the other thing that you need to watch out for on this boss is the Flame Shock. It does a lot of damage, especially if you're doing high tyrannical. It will just about one-shot you. Right here, I make sure to have the free Beast Cleave up when the totem is coming out from my Call of the Wild. So we can just burn that down real quick without having to use any globals on multi-shot. And then the fight just kind of rinses and repeats. Even when you are targeting the totem, make sure that you're keeping your Beast Cleave up. If there are two targets, you want to have your Beast Cleave up. Honestly, treat Beast Cleave sort of like you would treat Trick Shots. I haven't played MM in a little bit, and I actually almost forgot the name of that ability. That's hilarious. But yeah, treat Beast Cleave like you would treat Trick Shots. Like, you don't want to be sending a kill command without your Trick Shots up, right? It's just like aim shotting without Trick Shots up as MM. The only difference is this also works for your auto attacks, like your pet's auto attacks. So you just want it up 100% of the time if there are two or more targets. Unless one target is just insanely high prio and it's not worth the very slight damage loss of the focus and global that it takes to multi-shot. But pretty much every time you're just going to want
2, 1.
Beast Cleave to be up 100%. You can see the druid here. He tries to LOS behind the coral. He messes up. Once the boss gets down to, I think it's 20%, the mindbender that's controlling him pops out, and then there's just pulsing AoE damage that you can see here, and then you have to line of sight for its cast. And then right here I'm going to show what the druid was trying to do. You can use this coral as LOS. You just have to make sure that you're directly behind it there. A lot of people prefer to just go to the big circle, but you're going to lose a little bit of damage because it's a bigger circle. You're going to have to essentially be more LOS to be LOS of the boss, at least to be safe.
I shall take my leave once my
and here we just have a nice long marathon run all the way back through the corridor. And I'm just thinking to myself, you know, thank God I'm next to the tank. They can't pull without me. I want to do damage. This gauntlet right here that's coming up is, I think, the hardest part of this dungeon. The Aqua Mages, you have to make sure that you're on top of kicks. They are pretty dangerous, especially if you get hit by 2 of those at a time, or if you're already a little bit low from the throw spears, stuff like that. So you can see, like, I open this pack, I just use my wall, because I don't trust that we're going to get every stop, and I know I'm popping cooldowns, and I'm like, okay, I know we're not going to mess up on the sentries with the swells. I'm just using my wall. I don't want to get one shot. Just better to use it and not die, I think, at least for a lot of these. Again, if it's a super coordinated group, you would maybe be a little more confident and you could save your wall for you know, people saying, okay, I'm out of stops. These ones are going to hit. It's going to hurt. And then you use your wall, but I know I still have Turtle. I still have Exil. I still have my Fortitude of the Bear. So when we do this sentry here, I know that it won't be so bad. When you're doing these sentries, and this is the thing that a lot of people mess up on, and we mess up on right here, I don't know why we pulled it right there.
2, 1.
When these little unstable corruptions die, they give you a debuff, and it increases your shadow damage taken. So every time these die, you take more and more shadow damage, depending on how many you kill, and the swell that the sentry casts is shadow damage. So ideally, the way that you do these sentries is
2,
you pull them, and
1.
you can pull them with the little guys, but you just single target the sentry until it starts casting swell. And then about halfway through the swell, that's when you can start AoEing. Then you want to kill all the little guys when there isn't a swell happening, and there won't be a swell happening for a few seconds to give time for that debuff to fall off. So, like right there, we did it pretty much exactly the way you don't want to do it. We pulled the little guys, we were AoEing them, we got them low, and then as we were stacking the debuff up, we pulled the sentry, and thankfully we got some dispels and had an Aug Evoker. Aug Evokers give you a whole lot more survivability if they're playing correctly. So we survived, but definitely don't do what we just did. Pull the sentry. You can do it with the little guys, but just single target the sentry until halfway through the swell. And then you want to cleave those guys down real quick, get them all dead so the debuff can fall off before the next swell. This pack, not so awful. Again, you just have to be watching out for the Aqua Mages and the Throw Spears. If you get hit by multiples at the same time, like right there, you can see it's half my health from just the spears. If you get hit by 2 of those at once, like that's it, you're done. So right now I'm a little bit scared because I'm not topped and that shit's going off. So right here you can see the correct way to do a sentry. We pull it with the little guys, but we don't start doing damage to the little guys until right now, and then we leave the crap out of them. We want to kill them real quick before the next swell so that the debuff has time to fall off.
3.
Right here you can see it's not
2,
quite perfect, but I get dispelled
1.
anyway. So we would have had a lot of extra shadow damage taken for the first 2 ticks of this one, I think, if not for the dispel. So wasn't done perfectly, but that's roughly what you want to do. And that's where a lot of people die in this gauntlet. It's this, the coming pack, and then the double sentries. Those are the dangerous parts. So right here you can see I've been sitting on my Call of the Wild for a little bit. The reason for that is that we are going to pop our Bloodlust or Heroism, all of our cooldowns, and just absolutely melt this pack. Like, they're just not going to get casts off. They die instantly, and then we just go into the next pack with what remains of Hero and try to focus down one of the sentries. Let's see how high our damage goes here. It's not quite truly accurate because, yeah, you can see me getting fucking blasted here by a couple of casts going off at the same time. Yeah, so we hit like 1.6 mil, and the pack just absolutely disintegrates, and that's what we want to see there. It's pretty much the most dangerous part of the
3,
dungeon.
3,
We just
2,
don't want to mess around with it.
1.
Right here, you for sure want to focus one of them down. 2 swells going off is pretty darn dangerous. It's like having 5 stacks of the little guys going off, because I believe each stack is 20% shadow damage taken. So you just want to kill one and use defensives as best you can
3,
while they're doubling
2,
up.
1. 3.
So
2,
right here, I wouldn't use a defensive, and when the second one starts, I would want to use a defensive if I had one available, just to make sure that I don't die to the double ticks. It gets a little bit close, but we make it. If this was 26 or 27, I would for sure have had to.
3, 2.
I would have had
1.
to play better. I would probably turtle one of the overlaps, and I would be communicating with my druid or my tank, just saying, hey, I need help on this one. I would, you know, get an iron bark or a sack from the tank. And right here, like, we're looking very good on time. We're feeling pretty good about the dungeon. Right there, you can see I try to refresh my stack on my my Thrill of the Hunt and my Frenzies on that Spiteful, but I just miss it. But I still get 2 stacks at least going into the boss here, which hopefully we pull on time. I don't think that we do. I think I just start without him, but that's fine. Yeah. And then this boss, pretty simple. Only a couple of mechanics to really look out for. There's the one where you drop ink. You want to get them close to each other, as you can see here. And the reason you want them close is because when you get these beams channeled on you, you're immune to the shadow damage, and you can clean the ink up. And then he also spawns ads. I'm always targeting the far splotch ad here for a kick, just to make sure that it groups up. And then when these are out, I actually send my pets directly to the ads. Reason being, the boss's hitbox is so big that if you try to target the boss and just cleave the ads, your pets might not position correctly, and you might be essentially beast cleaving air because they're so far away from the rest of the mobs. So at the very least, I target the mob for a kill command so that my pet dashes over, or just mouse over and barb shot one of the little guys once they're grouped up, because my pets will leap to that target to do their stomp. It's a really good use of the mouse over barb shot, just to reposition your pet in situations like this. But this is also another one of those scenarios where if you wanted to min-max time in the dungeon at the cost of safety, you would be just targeting the boss and trying to cleave, while also making sure that no kicks go off, or no spell casts go off from the ink blotches. But we have plenty of time, so I'm just trying to make sure that we don't wipe to something stupid, like a cast going off and someone, getting ticked by ink, because these guys do have a little death rattle effect when they die. They'll deal some damage. So just trying to avoid stupid deaths, because the dungeon has been clean enough that as long as we don't completely int on this boss, we're totally fine. So like, this is a perfect example. Like, I use my Fortitude of the Bear. I know that's not going to kill me. But just in case I get stuck on coral trying to get out of the thing, I pop a defensive. I know I'm not going to need it for the rest of the fight, and better safe than sorry. I just use the defensive when I know damage is coming in to make sure that nothing potentially goes wrong. Because these little bits of coral around the room, you can get stuck on them, and I have gotten stuck on them as I am trying to get out of the ink, and I have died to that. So learn from your deaths, learn from your mistakes. And right here, I have my 2 minutes coming up, but the boss is pretty much dead anyway, so I just save it for Ozomat to pad, just for funsies. So right here, I'm popping my 2 minutes, swap to Ozomat with the big damage buff, and just absolutely crank. And overall a pretty clean dungeon. I was grouped up with the Pally and the enhancement shaman, and I don't think any of us died. I think the only deaths were the pugs here. And then yeah, there's the overall. So 385.8k overall. Pretty good. I did have an evoker, so that was bumped up a fair bit. But I did also update my details. It used to be, at least if you have done a Throne of the Tides recently, that damage dealt to Ozomat would show in your overall, so it would be ridiculously inflated. It would be like 20% of your damage was just in that last 20 seconds when you're hammering Ozomat at the end of the dungeon. I updated my details, so it no longer includes that. So the 385 is without the Ozomat pad. My shaman was yelling at me as this dungeon ended because he had not updated his details, and he was calling me a filthy patter because he was looking, and I did 475k overall DPS, and he looked and it was like 18% to Ozomat or something silly like that. So he was giving me shit, and I was just looking at right here, the overall does not include Ozomat. There is a lot of spiteful shade damage, but I mean, you can't really help that. Like, it's just beast cleave doing beast cleave things, right? But yeah, pretty clean dungeon, decent enough showcasing of what you want to do as a BM hunter. Mostly you're just using your bestial wrath on cooldown. Call of the Wild, mostly on cooldown, but you do want to hold it for certain situations, just depending on if there's a struggle point coming up in the dungeon. One of the pain points, like I did at the end, this last corridor was pretty much the last chance for this dungeon to go wrong and have us not time it. So just held cooldowns for a little bit, made sure that I had them going for the hardest part of the dungeon there. Yeah, and the talents I showed at the beginning of this, no longer what we want to use after the nerfs that we got on December 5th. I will have a link in the description that has the current export for what you want to do. As far as AoE talents go, super minor change. It's just you take points out of dire pack and some of your dire beast damage, and you just put that back into like Rylax Fangs, so that you do more crit damage when your Bestial Wrath is up. It helps offset the nerfs by a little bit, since the nerfs were specifically to our dire beasts. We just take our talents that buff dire beasts away, reallocate that damage elsewhere, and then instead of it being like a 5-ish% AoE nerf, it's, you know, down to 4-ish% AoE nerf. And I'm not even sure if it's that high. It looks like there may have been a bug when they were implementing the nerfs, and it might have only affected our beasts' kill commands and not the cleaves. So time will tell. Time will tell if that's an intended interaction on their tier set nerf, or if it's just a bug and they will nerf us further to be more in line with the original nerf that they were looking at, which was going to be like the 5-6% AoE. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something. It's definitely a new video format for me. So if this is the kind of thing that you want to see in the future, let me know. If you would rather just have raw, unedited gameplay and you can, you know, maybe hear comms with me and my team, it wouldn't be quite as engaging, but maybe that's more useful to you. Just let me know. Let me know in the comments. I read pretty much all of them. And I do plan on making a Beast Mastery guide for Mythic Plus in the coming days here. I almost always wait a couple of weeks as a patch is coming out before I put out a guide, because there's so much tuning. Like if the spec is too weak or too strong, there's going to be so much tuning. It can change your rotation, it changes your talents, and I would rather just put out the one up-to-date quality guide instead of, you know, trying to make a guide every 2 weeks for the first, you know, month of the season as things are changing. It's less confusing and, I mean, realistically less work for me. But I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much, and hopefully I'll see you back soon.